That's probably more of what many of you expected for more games this season, as kind of a typical predicted Pirates baseball game from what many thought was going to be the case entering this year. Not the case with recent games, but back to maybe more of the norm here tonight as the Pittsburgh Pirates lose to the Milwaukee Brewers 7-1. The Pirates now 6-9 on the year, and Milwaukee now trekking above 500 at 8-6. I'm your host here, Mike Asti, as usual, as this is another Pirates edition of Pittsburgh Postgame on Pittsburgh Sports Live. And I am going to be joined by a contributor to Rumbunter, one of the distinguished Pirate blogs out there, and also now has a new podcast, Unrestricted, Cody Potanko, for this show. Again, the Pirates lose this one 7-1 after a pretty big win just last night. And right away, one thing that pops out on the page, the Pirates have been able to win games thanks to the offense recently in particular. Didn't really get that offensive production in this game. They've also been able to win some games thanks to better starts than not, including one just last night from J.D. Brubaker, who threw a gem out there, and I discussed that whole postgame show and how, for me, he should move into that one spot in the rotation. Already seen enough to give him that. And despite the offense able to get a quality start, but today they don't get it from the offense and they don't get it from the pitcher either, as Trevor Cayhill only goes through 4 innings. Another stinker of a start for him, a veteran who they're hoping to get something for at the deadline. He's going to have to be much better to bring anything of value to this point, as he throws only 4 innings, 6 earned runs, 7 runs overall allowed while he was in there. 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, a rough outing for him. So not the best of starts for the Pirates overall, but nonetheless, they even up this series with the Brewers. They already have 1 win under their belt. And as Cody and I were talking off the air, 6-9, probably a better record than most people thought this team would have at this point. So again, hit that subscribe button, bottom of this video. It'll help us get all of our content to you throughout the channel and throughout the network. It's free to do so thanks to our sponsors. So, Cody, I'm going to bring on Cody Potanko here, again, contributor of Rumbunter, a fan-sided blog. So, Cody, I appreciate you joining me for sure, number one. And this team loses. They lose 7-1 this game after a win last night. They got a quality start last night from a starter who's been pitching well. They don't get one here in this game from a starter who's bluntly not been pitching well. And the Brewers' bats finally wake up. So, what are your takeaways from this game? That the positive, as I told you here from doing a lot of these shows, it rolled through in a regular pace. So I can't really complain. But what are your thoughts from this game? It was a loss, and it was not a good one for the Pirates.
Well, yeah, but first off, Mike, no problem. I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate you calling me on to do this show.
No problem, man.
But yeah, Trevor Cayhill, I honestly think he's just a uniform on this team. I think he's I honestly think he's going to give you 100 innings this year because he needs to eat innings. You see a lot of these starting pitchers that are waiting to come up into this system that have virtually no innings pitched. I think Will Crow has 8.1, and that's the most as far as the young guys go waiting. So I think we're going to see, unfortunately, Cayhill on this team the entire year.
Okay. I was going to kind of get into that and kind of ask you, so that foreshadows. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And to hit on this lineup today, we see that Phil Evans is actually human. I mean, he was right. I can't believe he's still considered a rookie. And with Hayes, if he was going to be out long term, I was thinking rookie of the year candidate, man. He was looking like it. Right. You know, we saw Colin Moran not do much today. We did see Brian Reynolds actually put together a decent game. You know, he went, 2 for 4 today. We saw Adam Frazier, who I predicted would have a good game today. He went 2 for 3, I'm pretty sure, today. And
Frazier was 2 for 4. Yeah, 2 for 4.
Oh, was he 2 for 4?
Yeah.
Okay. I missed an at bat then. I mean, it's missable today. It was a stinker.
Yeah, it was a rough one to watch and get through for sure. And yeah, I mean, Frazier 2 for 4. I would say Reynolds has been putting up a decent streak here. He also got hits last night, and he's been that. I did this on my show. Kind of one of the keys of this season wins and losses don't really matter for this year, in all honesty.
No.
It's about seeing the progress for the rebuilding. And one of those, everyone talks about Hayes, and yeah, you want to see a full season and have him be the face. But Brian Reynolds was thought to be that second guy, maybe even the face of the franchise before everyone knew about Key Brian Hayes off of what he did 2 years ago. Was a double machine, really. And last year just was awful. There wasn't much value for him. Certainly had a slow start. So you want to see more from him to mirror 2 years ago than last year. And so far he's been more 2 years ago than he has been last year. He might never get to 2 years ago again. That might have been a flash in the pan, but he has been a quality hitter for this team, a quality hitting 298 right now on the year. And Jacob Stallings, for me, is another one who got a hit in this game. He's never going to give you that many hits per game. I don't think there's going to be many 2 or 3 hit games from him. But if you get one hit from him every night, that's quality. And he's been kind of an unsung hero for this team that had been consistent as a hitter as well. Stallings hitting only 244, but he's dipped a little bit. But again, for his position, he's given me a little bit much in this game. Now, I do want to go back here again. Cody Potanko contributed with Rumbunter here on the Pirates edition of Pittsburgh Postgame. They lose 7-1 in this game. As Cody said, this was a stinker for Pirate fans, to say the least, although they've kind of got spoiled with some good, entertaining games that they've actually been winning much of prior to this game. For anybody who's been sleeping and not aware, the Pirates won 5 out of 7 and were only 2 games under 500. They're now only 3 games under 500, and it's still 5 out of 8. And that didn't just include wins. It included wins against teams that had expectations this year, Milwaukee being one of them, San Diego being another. And Tatis Jr. was out that series. He's since returned with a vengeance. So the Pirates kind of got lucky to miss him a little bit. But the Pirates had Key Brian Hayes out. So that certainly equalizes things. So again, it's going to be a bad year. I'm not marking for this team by any means. Certainly 90 losses are happening, but maybe this team won't be the worst in baseball, and they certainly have provided you reason to watch and been better than you would expect to this point. But going back to what you said about Trevor Cayhill, 4 innings, 6 earned runs, only the 1 walk, so at least he wasn't throwing people on base like he's been in past starts. 5 strikeouts, which actually is okay as well. But he's just allowing tons of runs, and it's not just on him. It is the defense a little bit too. But he's a veteran. He's never clearly been an ace. He's never been really a 1. He's mostly been a 2 at best. He's that veteran guy that maybe could be a 3-starter on a good team in some maybe years of the past. And you figure the ceiling for him is bringing some value at a trade deadline for a team in a pennant race, but you don't even believe that's going to happen. Do you believe that's not going to happen because he's been so bad this year and he's been worse than they would have thought since he is a veteran who knows these hitters? Or that's just the plan coming into the season that, okay, we have a veteran here, and if we can't get value from it mid-season, maybe he'll be that leader to these young pitchers, and they can remember some teaching he provided them 3 years down the line. Because obviously Trevor Cayhill's not going to be on the roster whenever this team is good, if that ever occurs. But he's on it now, and he's not been helping.
No, he hasn't been helping, but like I said previously, you're going to see him pitch at least 100 innings this year.
Okay.
Whether that's a combination of starting and in the bullpen, because we might see a guy like Miguel Yajure come up and take his spot in the starting rotation, and you see him as a long relieveman or something to that effect. But I don't think that Ben Cherington's original plan was to find a trade piece for Trevor Cayhill. I think he was just here to eat up innings. Okay. And especially with the Stephen Brault injury, you kind of need that veteran presence on this team to give you some sort of knowledge of the game.
Right.
I mean, JT Brubaker is I think he is, besides Trevor Cayhill, the guy that's been on the team the longest.
On the team, I guess. Yeah. He's definitely a young player. Yeah.
You also have Tyler Anderson, who I would argue with you is our ace right now.
I guess
he has given us the most quality starts. Okay. In my opinion, JT Brubaker has been incredible. Don't get me wrong, but I think Tyler Anderson with that Karate Kid leg kick has been rather awesome lately. And you might find a trade piece for him. He might be your trade piece, in my opinion.
Okay. I mean, that could be, and it might actually be a blessing in disguise or a positive for this team if it works out that way, because Trevor Cayhill as your trade piece is going to be rough. with these numbers. So I'm sure some team may try to take him just because veteran pitchers in a pennant race are very coveted. You could think that somebody, if they have a month left of their life pitching good baseball, you'd want it to be on your team. I'm sure somebody would maybe call them for a guy like that who's been in postseason series, have experienced it before, a former Giant, but it seems like his best days are certainly behind him. I'm not sure if he could even make a postseason roster, certainly not longer beyond the division series, and he's going to need to be much better if he's bringing the value. So if they can get value from somebody else, it's a positive, because again, there's only a few untouchable pieces for whenever this team is good. Ke'Bryan Hayes, maybe Brian Reynolds, and Ben Cherington. It sounds like from what he kind of says, he's pretty much open to anybody else if they're going to, if they're going to bring something else in. This is, fans don't like hearing this, but this is not a year that they're even going into the season thinking they're going to win. This is a process yet again, which I'm sure Pirate fans are familiar with hearing. The Pirates lose this game. So this is a post-game show after a 7-1 loss to the Milwaukee Brewers, a team again that has had expectations coming in the year, and their bats finally wake up. They've been cold a little bit in recent games. The Pirates still have won 5 of their last 8. They're 6-9 on the year. But again, this is a Pirate team that maybe this is more the norm. We don't know. I've been more than shocked by how they've been playing recently. Trevor Cayhill only goes through 4. He, of course, takes the L. Cody Potanko here, contributor with Rumbunter, joining me on the Pirates edition of PSL. And outside of Cayhill, any thoughts to this Pirate bullpen and how this has been handled this year? Because some thought coming into the season the bullpen maybe will be a strength of this team. The bullpen has had to be used maybe more than some would like. They have had to come in games in as early as the 4th or the 3rd or even the 2nd inning. Unlike other teams, these starters are not usually going deep in games. Trevor Cayhill only going through the 4th. And by the way, a pitcher going through 4 for the Pirates, even when they've been winning, has actually been good this year. They've had some worse starts this year, even with less earned runs. Of course, Brubaker has gone longer. Usually Tyler Anderson giving you at least 5. Brubaker's 6 was incredible. That's kind of why I would lean maybe to him being the number 1, just because he goes longer into games. But thoughts on this bullpen tonight? Only Poppin, only Holmes. It almost came across like, and I'm not saying they're trying to lose a game, but it almost came across like, well, we're not going to win this one. So here's a couple relievers. The starter can't go any longer and just get us out of here. But Howard's pitched every day. Every day. I mean, no days off for Howard.
Right.
What are your thoughts on how this bullpen has been handled? And are there any relievers on this bullpen that you think actually can be a part of the future and can maybe grab the bull by the horns? There's not a legit oriented role guy on this team. This is kind of a collective bullpen by committee, which generally is not a recipe for success. And usually when that's the case, you're looking to find some roles. Any of these guys fitting into any roles for you early on in the season that you see?
Yeah, absolutely. I think who can't root for a guy like David Bednar to be your future
right
player? Yeah. His stuff has looked electric. It's not just a Yinzer thing. Well, he's from Pittsburgh, so he's got to be.
He is from here, yes.
But no, it's not that at all. I think his stuff is electric, and he offers very good back end of the bullpen stuff. I think Dwayne Underwood Jr. has surprised a lot of people, and you see him in a lot of games in a lot of high leverage situations. And I think you could see him become one of your middle relievers or even become a piggyback situation, especially with pitch count being closely watched nowadays. Dwayne Underwood Jr. can be a very good piece to have in that bullpen. But as far as the bullpen is being handled, I don't think you can maintain this success that they've had so far this year for a long period of time.
Right.
Eventually making them go 6 innings or 8 innings or however long they need to go, it's not a formula for success.
And it's even happening during wins. Like they're even even during some of the recent wins, with the exception of the Brubaker start, they were still coming in the 4th inning. They actually, Chad Kuhl's start was awful. You're still draining the bullpen a lot. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think this bullpen as a whole has surprised a lot of people. I mean, expectations weren't very high for this team in general, and I think pitching was the number one reason why this was. I mean, you saw the bats, and the bats actually have potential, and we've seen that this year. but the bullpen has been a pleasant surprise. And I, excuse me, I think you could find trade pieces in this bullpen to deal at the deadline. One being Richard Rodriguez, who is definitely a setup man, if not a closer, for a contender. His stuff is electric, and we have brought him in situations, even though they weren't saves. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't look like he's just punching in a time clock. He's actually putting in work like the game is either tied or they're up by one. So Richard Rodriguez, I think, is a guy to look out for at the deadline to be moved.
Yeah, he does seem to be the one that teams would covet the most, that could bring you the most. He has more of that cachet, kind of fits into at minimum a guy who can bring you those fantasy holds, if not maybe a guy who can close. And one thing the Pirates have been able to do, win or lose, the last 10 years is actually produce closers. They've actually been able to do that. And he does have maybe the talent and the filthy stuff that could garner something else as well and potentially return. So I definitely think that makes sense. Again, Cody Potanko coming at you here, a contributor for Rumbunter here, a fan-sided blog covering the Pirates. As Pirates lose this one 7-1, now 6-9 on the year. Now, as far as this lineup goes, Cody, we talked about earlier, this team is hitting. And now they didn't hit in this game. But it was bound to happen. They were bound to cool off. And I actually threw out the joke there that once watch this team win without Hayes, and then Hayes returns, and all of a sudden they start losing and playing like they normally were supposed to play this year, and eventually we know is going to catch up. So it's not like that's impossible to occur. Hayes is yet to return to this point. Hayes, again, it's a short-term injury from what it's been reported. We haven't seen him yet. So it's now been longer than he was supposed to be out. He was on that 10-day injured list. We have now exceeded that time frame.
Yeah.
It's not really clear when he's going to return. If I'm Derek Shelton and he's healthy enough, I would actually try to avoid what I'm talking about right now and what we're going to get to. And I would maybe hopefully see him in one of the next two series, because it could give Derek Shelton about a week and a half off from having to answer this question when we ask him of what are you going to do with this lineup, especially Phil Evans, who we mentioned has cooled off a little bit, only one hit in the last two games, but an average still above 300. Him and Colin Moran have been really even while Brian Reynolds has been hitting and Stallings has been hitting and Newman and Frazier hit occasionally, that 7-run inning a few nights ago was Chinese water torture. It was single, single, single. They don't have power hitters except for Moran, except for Phil Evans. And as you mentioned, Phil Evans has hit enough in his Pirate career that he's garnered playing time. You need people who can hit, even if you can't play defense. So you don't want to lose their bats in this lineup when Hayes returns. But of course, when Hayes returns, got to play third, got to hit second, third at the worst, really. Got to be back in the lineup where you normally would fit him. So maybe Derek Shelton can avoid this with American League teams on the road being the upcoming series where you have the DH capability and you could put Evans as DH or Hayes there if he's not fully healthy to play the field. But after that's over, how would you tinker this lineup? Would you tinker it? What would you do when Hayes returns? Because we also have to bear in mind the joke among Pirates fans and media is Gregor Polanco this year. And I've been hard on the kid for a year and a half now. But to be fair, he has been hitting better recently. He hit that home run just a night ago. He has made more contact. And Mike Persak of the PG, who's a consistent guest that we have here in these post-game shows, kept telling us that the hitting coach actually instilled this 3-part series of switching his swing and creating a new swing. And he's apparently only through part 2, and they've guaranteed him they'd let him go through part 3, which tells me another month, even if he was sucking, basically. So with the money that's on there, and that might be a player you want to trade and bring some value in, it's unlikely they're going to want to sit him down, especially while he's making contact, because they want value out of him right now early in a year. So what would you do with this lineup when Hayes return, not wanting to upset the apple cart too much? Because that is the one part of this team, win or lose, except for tonight, has been working. And as great as Hayes is, his return is going to change this lineup exponentially.
Yeah, and a lot of people like to pick on Gregory Polanco. He's everyone's whipping boy, it seems to be. But I think there's a bigger target in all of this that no one has seemed to mention, and that's Anthony Alford. And this is very simple for me. You put Phil Evans in left field. you move Brian Reynolds over to center field.
Okay.
And you keep Greg over in right field. Brian Reynolds has played center field before, as we saw last year, and he's played it in the minors. He came up as a center fielder. I think if you can play center field, you can play any other field. So
that's true. Yeah, that's the hardest outfield. That's true. Right.
So I think Brian Reynolds will be just fine over there in center field. And Phil Evans is a corner outfielder. He kind of reminds me of Josh Harrison a little bit. He can play pretty much every position on the field except catcher. We even saw him play pitcher. So
yeah,
pitched a 1-2-3 inning, man. So
right. Yeah. There's been worse. There's been worse outings, and again, Trevor Cayhill tonight. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that to me, that's the most simple answer, and that's how I like to keep it with the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid, and you move Phil Evans over to left field, and it's easy in my opinion. And when Jared Oliva eventually does come, I think Phil Evans moves out of the lineup, and we see Jared Oliva play in left.
Yeah, and I don't disagree, but it's interesting how Derek Shelton's handled this team and this lineup in recent games. It almost feels like, and again, I don't know this, it almost feels like he's trying to test the theory to whether you're correct or whether the opposing side is correct, because Polanco got playing time last night. We saw the home run. He sat a game or so before. You see Polanco sitting in this game. You see Alford in this game at center. He actually, for his only defense, you can't be mad about this night. He went 1 for 3 in this game. So his average is still below 100. He's hitting .87. Polanco has at least crawled himself to, I believe he's at 205 right now. He's certainly over 200, and that included the dinger. But Polanco's lucky to have caught that ball because he was hitless prior to that at bat. So maybe that's a little misleading as well. But the benefit for Polanco is he's at least making contact. He does have a higher price tag, and let's be real, the money that's there, again, he has 3 reasons that are going to defend him. The swing thing, the fact that he's been on the team for a while, maybe 4 reasons. He is hitting better, and then also the money and also the value. So there's actually maybe 5 reasons, actually. He has more reasons to go in his favor. But Alford went 1 for 3. It almost feels like that Sheldon's trying to figure it out maybe in his head. Like, which guy's going to give me more? What can I do here? Yeah. You know, what's more of the rebuilding thing? What am I doing more for the trade deadline? This whole thing might be totally different, obviously, after the deadline, because maybe some of these moves are going to be made. And in a perfect world, Polanco would at least be good enough to give you that value, because he's another one of those guys that he's not going to be on this team whenever they do win. He's not incredibly old for real life, but for this team and usually what happens at that age and his last year and a half, it basically will be the end of the line for him. Cody Potanko, again, contributor with Rumbunter, joining me here on Pirates postgame here on Pittsburgh Sports Live. Mike Asti, Pirates lose this game 7-1, now 6-9 on the year. And Cody, as we wrap things up, they have the rest of this series. They have the Twins, the Tigers, then Kansas City. So there's some American League teams coming up, and the Twins and Tigers on the road. So that again instills the designated hitter, which will make Hayes' return, if it occurs then, easier, because Phil Evans would just go into that DH slot. The one thing you are going to lose by doing your proposed lineup with Hayes is defensively. Evans potentially could bring you down defensively, but we'll see. That's probably what makes the most sense as long as things are going right now. What do you see from these series coming up? And really, most importantly, what are you watching for in these series coming up? Because I don't know where you are, again, but wins and losses really aren't important for me watching these games this year. It is the maturation process of certain players. I don't have any thoughts of grandeur even in these past few weeks that they all of a sudden were going to make a playoff run or could surprise people. Right. The only thing that might be surprising is if they're not last place and the Cubs fall to last and they end up trading some pieces. But there's still tons of talent there. Kind of still, if I'm going to put money down here, I'm going to still bet the Pirates is last place in this division, and that Chris Bryant and Rizzo will wake up before, say, the Pirates figure things out. But what are you expecting here in these series coming up? These are maybe some teams you could get some wins off of. They've already been able to beat some better teams. Those are the teams here coming up as after they wrap things up with the Brew Crew.
Yeah, and we saw last year the only AL teams we did play was the AL Central, and we brought them back again this year, and I don't know why, because we could not beat the AL Central to save our lives.
Yeah.
I think Detroit is better than everyone thinks. I think Detroit actually has some key pieces. I think they are a step above the Pirates in terms of development right now. But that is going to change, obviously, with the draft coming up. And hopefully Jack Leiter joins this list that we talk about ever so much.
Could be an option. There's a debate there. But, yeah, that could be an option. The relation to Al Leiter, former Major League starter.
But I think in these next 3 series with the AL Central, we're going to see the Pirates string us along a little bit more and make us think, hey, maybe they can contend for the NL Central because it's garbage.
It is a weak division. Yeah, that's a benefit. If you're going to be really, really bad, this is a weak division to do that.
Yeah, but honestly, I think that these next 3 series, we're going to see guys like Colin Moran still make his approaches at the plate and continue to do good and potentially be the best hitter on this team. I mean, it's amazing how he's figured it out to go the opposite field with the shifts going on. I really want to see what Mitch Keller can do. I know the kid is still young and he has just 20 starts, but I need to start seeing some progress with Mitch. I'm starting to lose patience.
Okay, yeah.
I want to see Tyler Anderson can remain consistent so he can bump that trade value up. And I want to see this bullpen continue their dominance. That's pretty much the checklist for me with these 3 series coming up.
Yeah, seems very reasonable here. Again, Cody Potanko, contributor with Rumbunter, as we are wrapping up this Pirates game. This is a 7-1 loss to Milwaukee with this Brewers series to close up. And then, of course, those 2 American League series. Again, maybe Hayes would fit nicely in there. You wouldn't have to worry about tinkering this lineup with those being American League series on the road and the DH in play. And then Kansas City back at PNC Park. This team flirting with not providing reason to turn off your TV yet, even with Steelers season still in play, as it always is with the draft season right now. 6-9 could be worse. For example, Minnesota Twins coming up 6-8 entering this day. That's not much of a better team. Detroit may be better than people think. And of course, Miggy's there. So there's talent. They do have a veteran that can still get it done, unlike Pittsburgh with a very young team. And they might be ahead in that rebuilding phase, which is shocking to hear and say because this team took a dip for a while and they kind of stayed off the radar, and they've actually been able to kind of turn things around. Just quickly here as we kind of finish things, Milwaukee, they had expectations coming into this year. We both agree this NL Central, it's maybe the worst, if not one of the worst divisions in baseball. Yeah. There's probably not a wild card maybe coming from here. The Cubs team for the first time in 5 years, really since maybe even longer, since before 2016 when they won the World Series. Didn't really add much this offseason. Maybe Peterson's an ad, but that's not really that much of an ad. They lost more than they added. The Cardinals have been a pick by some off of default just because that's kind of the Cardinal way to come out of nowhere and win it in these type of years. But then the other team that's more of the sexy national pick for the NL Central is Milwaukee, mostly maybe because of their pitching. And not to say people are picking them to win a pennant, but people are picking them to win this division because it is so bad, and they're the team that has been good recently and maybe having the starters to get it done. They're 8-6. They're above 500, but it's not like they've been that great. It's been a roller coaster ride, and they had a really sluggish start early on in the year. They picked it up a little bit recently. Their bats came alive in this game after being quiet just last night. Brubaker made it impossible for them to do anything in that game. Yeah, he was dealing in that game Friday night. Again, he has been phenomenal this year. And Cayhill is somebody they beat up on, but so does everybody. So I don't know if they can really – I don't know. We got to see them one more game against somebody else to really say that their bats are back. But what are your thoughts on the Brewers this year? Are they the team that you pick to win this NL Central? Are they still your pick? Or are you maybe worried about that pick from what you've seen? And how good or bad is Milwaukee? Because it's hard to tell to this point. There's not – that one player that jumps off the page like maybe in past years with Yelich and, going back to Ryan Braun, etc. But it's a good team, but not a great team, at least not from certainly a Pirate fan perspective based on what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the Brewers, Cardinals, and Reds all fight for that number 1 spot. I think the Cardinals are going to come out of nowhere eventually and surpass everybody. We've seen the Reds; they're on fire.
They are. To my surprise, they are. Yeah.
To everyone's surprise, really. We thought Trevor Bauer was just the guy that got them over the hill there and just couldn't succeed. But no, they actually have a good squad on their hands.
Right.
Did you happen to see the triple play they pulled off today?
Yeah, yeah, they're an oddly a fun team to watch too. Again, without Trevor Bauer.
Yeah,
and they're basically a team. I saw even their tweet over there on their account that they want to have the whole crew go for the home run derby. They have a ballpark that's been built for the home run derby,
right?
And they finally put it together as an overall team with some pitching that wasn't the case for so many years. So yeah, they kind of quietly built it up, and they've done it in a different way. That it's not just trying to bring in tons of veterans that just they're going to trade at midseason. It's actually a kind of a younger team now. There's still some of those pieces, but a younger team. But yeah, they're right now. They entered the game they entered the day 9-5. The Brewers 8-6, Cardinals 7-7, Cubs 6-8, and then the Pirates 6-9. It's where the division stands right now. So you think the Reds are going to stay in there?
Yeah, I think the Reds are going to fight till the end, and I think they're going to lose and fall off because they are so young. I think they're going to lose it towards the end of the season because it's 162 games. That's a long time, especially for young kids to maintain what they're doing right now. And just before I say anything else, isn't it nice to see Cubs fans suffer watching Trevor Williams every 5 days?
It's a different, this is back to the old school Cubs fan and what they're dealing with right now. And and Chris Bryant is getting to actually learn Cubs baseball and what maybe his older brothers, fathers, and that generation dealt with. Because he kind of been lucky to what he's dealt with so far. It is a different division right now. Kind of flipped upside.
It's the NFC East of baseball.
Yeah, to say the very, very least, it's a division that the Milwaukee Brewers right now are still maybe a favorite for many. They do need to pick it up. They do win this game, though, 7-1, as they get everyone's favorite pitcher to get them out of a skid in Trevor Cayhill this year. Again, Cayhill not giving enough 4 innings, maybe better than some. Chad Kuhl is envious of those 4 innings, but 6 earned runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. The Pirates pitching was supposed to be the weakness this year, and not to say it's still not going to be. It certainly has been a problem. Chad Kuhl's not been giving you enough. Still going to be. There's been some solid starters, but I think it's coming to roost again. The Pirates don't have enough in terms of starters to really be able to do anything this year of note. The bullpen maybe giving you more than you would have thought in recent games. We'll see how that's handled moving forward. We will see how the lineup's handled moving forward whenever Hayes returns. And again, if he's healthy, point to one of those 2 series against American League teams on the road, because you'll be able to ease him in there without having to worry about moving this lineup when you'll have the DH in play, and that'll fit in for Evans, who has struggled the last 2 games, but of course has been one of their better hitters all year. Brian Reynolds hitting still despite losing. Jacob Stallings hitting still despite losing. That's a positive. You're getting a few hits. You're at least getting it from those guys. Cody, I definitely appreciate the time. We'll definitely have to talk again soon, man, for sure. So Cody Potanko, again, a contributor with Rumbunter there, also has a new podcast called Unrestricted. So Cody, I definitely appreciate it. We will talk again soon. And at least it's been entertaining baseball to watch this point, even though we kind of know what we're getting up until this game. So my apologies for your first game appearance to be this game, as it was rough. It was rough to watch, but thanks, man.
Well, no, not a problem, man. I've been suffering for 25 years with this team, so I'm used to it.
Gotcha. No problem. Again, Cody Potanko, who joined me there, a contributor from Rumbunter, also has her own podcast there. Wanted to give a blogger fan kind of a crack at things, jumping the Wii every now and then. I don't obviously do that myself, but I wanted to give him a shot. I wanted to open up the doors here. Certainly love our Mike Persack. Certainly love our John Parada. Certainly love Jerry DiPaolo, former Trib colleague of mine. But wanted to, have a blogger, maybe have a fan perspective on these post-game shows as well. See if we do get anything here in the chat. Actually, it looks like, we got you, man. The Pirates aren't good. Actually, he wrote something else in there that I won't share with you. But yeah, of course, this Pirate team isn't going anywhere this year. It has at least been entertaining and not been horrendous to this point. That's a plus for somebody like me having to watch these games to do these shows, or for you fans or people like Cody having, watching this team. There's been a reason. Again, I'm not marking out. This team's one of the worst in baseball. They're going to finish as one of the worst in baseball. They're going to lose over 90 games. It's not about this year. It is a rebuilding phase, and I get it. Who knows if they're going to finally spend when they can. It's not been good enough in the past. I get the tons of reasons not to trust Ben Cherington and past regimes maybe closing up shop way too early. after 2015. I get all of that. Trust me. I'm a Pirates cynic with the best of them, but they've been better than you would have thought to this point. They've got some quality starts, not tonight, not from Trevor Cayhill, but they've been winning thanks to the offense, because outside of a Brubaker start here or there, outside of a Tyler Anderson start here or there, it's mostly not been deep starts from these starters. It's been a lot from the bullpen. Didn't have to give you as much here tonight, kind of just throwing two guys out there knowing they were going to lose, but they've been throwing 3 or 4 or 5 pitchers out there from 4 innings on in most of these games. So that's a problem. You can't live by that too long. Eventually, you live by the sword, you die by the sword with that mentality. And we will see what happens with this lineup when Hayes returns. But I've been saying on every one of these shows, you got to find a way to keep Evans in this lineup. And they're just not going to take Polanco out of the lineup, even though I wouldn't mind it, with his price tag and the fact that he's been making contact recently. So you figure it out around there. I don't know how, but you figure it out around there. And maybe Cody's thought process of moving Reynolds to center is the only way you do it there. So again, thanks to Cody Potanko, contributor with Rumbunter, which is a fan-sided Pirates blog, giving us the fan perspective here on this edition of Pirates Postgame here in PSL. Hit that subscribe button. It'll help us get all of our content to you here on PSL. Anything that goes live, uploaded, premiered, anything here on our channel throughout our Pittsburgh Sports Now network of sites. You can get it. You get a notification when you hit that subscribe button. So the Pirates lose this one. More typical Pirates baseball you can expect the rest of the season. I wouldn't get too comfortable that you're not going to see much more of these games. Again, this year is not going to be a good one. This year is not a planned even win this year. And who knows if the fruit will ever come from the labor, because who knows if they won't do what they've done before. And when they have that opportunity to seize the day, they won't seize it. They're never going to go in the red to try to kind of win that World Series like other small markets have done. I'm not necessarily believing that's going to occur, but to this point, they play better than advertised. And some other teams with expectations, maybe the Milwaukee Brewers included, have not. So we'll see if this division changes. I'm not as high on the Reds as Cody, but right now, they're up there at top of the division. They have been entertaining, throwing a triple play out there, basically a team with a home run derby, and still able to pitch despite losing Trevor Bauer. Obviously, the Dodgers, the defending champs, are still the class of baseball. He's better off there, I guess, from a winning perspective, but he still has left a pretty damn good team in Cincinnati. And I'm sure Pirate fans and Pittsburgh fans are going to say, if they could do it in Cincinnati, why can't the Pirates? Why did they rebuild so quick? Same old story. Don't have answers for you, but the rebuilding process isn't too far away if Reynolds keeps this up. If Hayes can give you a full season, can get healthy and pick up where he left off last year. But they, of course, need to figure it out starter-wise, need to figure a lot of other things out. And if they're ever going to get any value for any of these veteran pitchers, Trevor Cayhill in particular, he got to be much, much better.